Welcome back to the Comfee Mug Channel. We got some anime grass stream highlights here. Let's get into it. Just to give you guys a quick overview, we're going to be going over the base shader, some clovers and wild grass, and then we'll have a little break for questions. If you guys have any questions about the node setup, anything like that, it's going to be very simple and everything kind of just builds off of itself. I have some textures over here. I hand painted some of these originally. In theory, these would work great, and if you're a better painter than me, then yours will probably work great, but for mine, they really didn't. So I just stuck with the procedural look, completely procedural, and I tend to like the look of that a little bit better. So it's just all based on your own preference. So what I'll do is I'm recording all of this, and this whole VOD will be in the description in case you guys want to go back and get the more detailed version of all of this. Will the VOD be available for anyone or just members or patrons? Great question. Yeah, so this is a public stream, and I'll be doing two of these types of streams, two public streams every month. But yes, this one specifically will be public for anyone to watch. So I have two different layers. One is just the grass textures themselves, and then this is the ground texture that is underneath it. And for both of these meshes, I just have the same displacement modifier on here. It's just a Voronoi texture with an intensity of 1, a size of 0.8, and then the displacement texture itself, it's just going on the Z axis, and it is global rather than local for the coordinates, and its strength, I have it at -0.2 because it just inverts the Voronoi texture, so you get nice rounded bumps and shapes, and that's exactly what we want. They do have the geometry 2D instancing node setup that I use in my anime clouds tutorial, which is linked in the description. I'm not going to go over it in this stream because I went over it in that other tutorial, but if you want to see what it looks like, it probably doesn't need any of this stuff. I haven't used that for the textures themselves, but if you want to take a screenshot, that's one of the best ways that I recommend learning how to make shaders and make them from scratch. If you want to do that, feel free to take a screenshot of this. If not, then the tutorial is in the description, just under the use the geometry node setup in this tutorial for Ghibli Grass. That's the one that you'll want to click on. But yeah, so I'll just go back over to my texture placeholders here. If we go over here, then I can show you guys just a quick overview of what the textures look like. I think what we'll start off with is just the color shape, and this will be the base for not just our grass, but also our terrain shader as well. We'll also want the brush texture. This is just to emulate that hand-painted brushstroke look. And to give you an idea of what that is, it's this little flow that you see going on here. It's infinite, and if I increase this particular noise texture scale, then you'll see that the fake brush hairs get a little bit thinner, and then this scale here will change how far away or close up you are to that particular brush, and that'll be all throughout our grass. I'm reading a chat message here. I literally just started to learn how to use Blender particularly 2 days ago. I'll do my best to follow, even though I won't. You'll do great either way. I'm so excited for you to be starting your Blender journey. That is so awesome. Both of those will go into our color dynamics. And this is just how we can determine different patches of grass, if you will, how light we want certain areas to be. The dark color will be for fake shadows and whatnot, and it'll look like little grass clumps. The multiply here just increases the visibility of the colorization for the brush stroke texture. So if I increase that, you can see that some areas get darker, but if I decrease that, then you'll see that it's completely gone. So I have it at 0.1. You can obviously increase or decrease however you would like. And then the diffuse, you'll notice that it has a normal connecting, or a normal node connected to the normal of the diffuse BSDF, and that the color is not connected to our diffuse BSDF. And the reason for that is because I don't want the colors to be too affected by the light and shadows. So what the multiply is doing for this diffuse BSDF, and why the color isn't plugged into the diffuse BSDF, is because with a completely white color for a diffuse, I can just take the color input from the sun and it will automatically just be affected by that color. But yeah, all of that is plugged into the output, which connects our color and textures with our alpha, which is basically the mask that we have for our little grass instances. I'm going to change this back to the HDRI. These sections here will determine the shape of our grass. The shape distortion, I have it plugged into a mix that also has the generated texture coordinate plugged into it as well. The noise and all of the different textures that I have are plugged into the object info node. And what that does is just make everything random based on the coordinates of your specific object. Just creates a whole lot more variation, which makes things look actually hand painted rather than just duplicated over and over again. But again, what this is doing is creating all these little fragmented shapes. The noise is what's doing that. And so if I increase this mix, it will distort the mapping and texture coordinate node, which is connected to our spherical gradient. And so if I increase that, you guys will see that it spreads out to the shape of the noise, which is really cool. And if I decrease it, then we just have the regular gradient texture that also has the linear light with the brush texture as well. So we'll get started with the color shape. So I'm just gonna press Shift A and search for a noise texture. I have Node Wrangler enabled in the system preferences. So you can just go to the add-ons, type in node, and it'll be the first thing. Just press that little check and save preferences, and you'll be able to press Shift A and search for all of the nodes. Looks like for the scale, we changed it to 1.5 and press Control T. And that will give me the texture coordinate node and mapping node. We'll connect the object output to the vector input. And then I also just want to search for an object info node. We'll place that right underneath, can stay a little bit organized, and we'll connect the location to the location input of that. We have a mix color and we have a color ramp. I always like to line the tops up. I don't know, do you guys ever do that when you try to just line it up just perfectly? Or is that just me? Seriously, comment to let me know. I need to know. So I connect the color to the A input, and I'll also grab a color ramp, put that right underneath. And we'll also want to, I think I have the mapping node connected to the B input. Yes. So we'll just connect the vector output of the mapping node to the B input there. The mix color, it's at 0.7, I believe. And that's just so that we have a little bit more input from our mapping node than our texture coordinate node. Also, thank you so much. I'm gonna butcher your name, I'm so sorry, but A. John Jitsu. I like that name, that's cool. Thank you so much for being a paid member, a producer mug. That is a huge help to me. So thank you to everyone who has subscribed on Patreon and has become a member on YouTube. And I also want to say a huge thank you to my Elder Mug members over on Patreon, who will be getting this full blend file with every grass texture and so much more on the 1st of September when this video releases. This asset pack is from my upcoming short film, Heartborn, which is stylistically centered around the Studio Ghibli look. So if you want more streams and videos documenting my process for achieving that look in Blender, make sure to like and subscribe with notifications enabled. And now, let's get back to the stream. So what else do we have going on here? We have a Voronoi texture and another color ramp, but the color ramp's color stops are inverted. Do I have the glare node on in the compositor? Yes, I do actually, and thank you so much for pointing that out. So I have the compositing node set up. I'm using two Kuwahara filters. One is classic and one is anisotropic. I have a tutorial for how to set that up in your viewport as well in the description below. It's titled Add the Kuwahara filter to your viewport with compositing nodes, and you just click on that link and it'll send you to that tutorial. Once again, thank you so much for pointing that out. I would have forgotten to let you guys know, and you guys would have been like, what? My shaders are looking a little bit different. But anyways, so we have the Voronoi, and now we'll just duplicate the color ramp over here. So I'll press Shift D, bring that in front, and then I'm just going to connect the distance and bring the color stops, make them inverted. And I just want to make sure that I have everything correct for the color ramps here before I start connecting things. So it looks like the black color stop is on the 0.4 position, and the white color stop is on the 0.6. So I'll do that really quickly. Just type in 0.4 and then 0.6. There we go. And we'll also change the Voronoi from F1 to smooth F1 and connect the color ramp's color into the smoothness of that. And then lastly, I'll just connect the mix color into the vector, and we'll see what this all comes up with. And to give you a little bit of a better understanding, I will just increase the size of this a little bit. So we have a little bit of a distorted shaping to our Voronoi because it doesn't just have the mapping node input. See, if I connect just this, then everything will be a little bit more uniform. But because we have the noise texture that's interfering with the normals, you can see how that will change based on the normal texture and scale. That is generally the way that we want to set up our color shape. We might want to crank some of these color stops up. So it looks like the white color stop is at 0.3. and the black is at 0.9. And that looks pretty good for now. I am going to shrink this back down. Oh, it's not perfect. Oh, that bothers me. Okay, my perfectionist is coming out a little bit. So that's what we'll want to do for that. Next, we should probably add the brush texture. So I'll just do that, noise texture. We'll need two, so I'll just press Shift D to duplicate that. And then on this last one, I don't think that I need to make a new one. I can literally just connect the original mapping node to that vector input. Yeah, that works. And then the factor is plugged into the vector input of the other noise texture. So we'll just do that real quick. And as you can see from the top one here, we have the scale very low and the roughness at 0. And that's because the first noise texture is driving the shape, and the second noise texture is driving the amount of brush hairs that we want. So add a color ramp. We'll connect the factor or the color. I don't think it really matters, but I'm going to turn this down, the roughness down, and set the scale to 0.5. And the scale for the other noise texture, I think I had it at 15. And then I've also cranked the color stop a bit, and I've increased the detail to 3 and the roughness to 1. So I'll just do that. And this, I like having the color ramps on ease. I feel like it just gives it a little bit more depth. You can see the difference between linear and ease there. It's up to personal preference, but I have the black color stop at 0.35 and the white color stop at 0.6. So I'll just put that in here. There we go. So we have a lot more contrast between the lights and darks, and that will affect both our color as well as our mask for the alpha. But that is all we need, I believe, for the brush texture. So I'm just going to make a new frame with Shift P and press F2 on my keyboard to then rename this to brush texture. I want to bring this over to, again, with my organization, it's got to line up perfectly, and I don't think that lines up perfectly, but I'm just gonna have to deal with it and move on. Oh, that's heartbreaking right there. So now we are going to go into the color dynamics. So I'm just going to search for a mix color node. The Voronoi textures color ramp color is going to connect to the factor. And then we're just going to put a lighter green color in the B input and a darker greenish blue color in the A input. But once again, obviously use whatever colors you like. And then we also have two multiplies and then this little diffuse shader setup down here. So I'm going to add the mix color, and that will be a multiply. I'll duplicate this over with Shift D, and then I'll also add the diffuse BSDF shader to RGB. Here we go. And then a normal. And the cool thing about the normal node, I'll show you guys how this works. So I'm just going to plug in the regular diffuse here. As you can see, if I go underneath this, it will have some shadows on here. And so the reason why we have the normal is because if we connect this to the normal of the diffuse, it gets rid of the shadows on the back, but still allows for world shadows and other objects to cast shadows on top of this particular texture. That's what we want. We don't want any of the grass textures themselves casting any shadows. We just want the grass textures to almost be emissive while still accepting other objects' shadows. So I'll connect the shader to RGB node there, and then we have the color into the A input. B input is in the brush texture. Let's press Shift Control left click to show you guys what that will look like. And then I'm going to reduce this factor to 0.1. Then we'll just connect the first multiply into the A input of the second multiply, and we'll just connect that to the B input. And now we have a texture. If the factor of the multiply is put all the way up, this can now accept the different colored light. So that's what we want. That's what we love. So I'm just going to select all of this once again and press Shift P to stay organized with a frame. I should note that everything we have so far is all we need for the base terrain shader, which is on a separate plane. So just make a copy of this shader to use as the terrain, and then we can keep working on the original. And now we can move on to the different section, which is setting up our masks for the textures. And we'll do it right above our brush texture. So I'll search for another noise. This is a very noise heavy shader setup going on. I like it. And then we'll press Control T. Actually, we still don't even need this, because we can just plug it into from our original mapping node. So we can plug that in there, and we'll change the scale to 25. So I'll search for a gradient texture, and then I'll press, did I just say plus? I'll press Control T. I'll plug this in, and we'll change this to spherical. And the reason why it's staying on the generated rather than putting it on object is because it won't make or have the gradient centered for all of the instances of this shader that we have, but generated does. So before we go into centering this, I just want to add the mix color node for the noise texture. We'll put that right in the middle, and then connect the raw color to the B input. And what that is doing is it is now distorting the input from our texture coordinate node to the mapping node. The more we increase this, the more it will just look like the noise texture is controlling the gradient. And the less we have of this, it'll be completely spherical. We just want a little bit of distortion. So if I see here, I have the factor at 0.15. There we go. So we just have a little bit of distortion. And then I also increased the scale, I believe, to 1.8 on all of these, as you see here. Yep. Instead of having to change all of these inputs individually, I'm just going to search for a value node. You can also use a math node as well. Just set to add or subtract with the bottom value at 0, and then change the value that way. So I'll just type in for our value 0.8, and for the top value here, 0.8. Oh, that's a 9. 0.8, there we go. And now if I plug this in, you can see that we'll have to center this, but it drastically decreases the scale. And so just gonna center the gradient on our plane here. There we go. It can be a little finicky. We just need to add a color ramp. And it looks like the color stop for the white stop is the only one that's changed, and it's been changed to 0.3. Color ramp, there we go. Make sure we're on the white stop and change it to 0.13. There we go. So I'm gonna keep things a little bit more organized here. Fantastic. So now the last thing we need to do for this whole shader is connect it all together. And so we just have a linear light with our distorted gradient connected to the B input and our brush texture to the A input with the factor all the way up. We have a color ramp just to adjust things a little bit further, and our transparent BSDF and mix shader node there. So we'll go with the mix color and then the color ramp, and then we'll add a transparent BSDF and a mix shader as well. There we go. And we want to change the mix color to a linear light. That will just make whatever's connected to the A input, which will be our brush texture, that will make it be conformed to the shape of whatever's in the B input, particularly when it's black and white. It does something a little bit different when it's in color, but that's the general idea of why we're using it this way. So I'll show you what we have going on here. Factor at 0, we just have the brush texture. And then factor at 1, we have the brush texture that is now integrated into our distorted gradient. So the color to the factor and the transparent BSDF to the top input for the shader. And then we'll just connect the color dynamics to the bottom input of the mix shader. Then once it loads, we have an alpha for our grass texture. And so now if I have everything plugged in correctly, it should look very similar. It looks like I have a little bit more texturing for the noise. I forgot to change the word that I cannot pronounce. That's why it's different. So we'll keep this texture at 15, and this will change to 3, and this will change to 3. Now it looks the same. And so as you guys can see over here, the more we crank up this white color stop, it'll get rid of those softer transparent edges. And the more we crank up the black stop, it'll increase those transparent edges. And so in your particular shader here, something that I forgot to mention was if you press N on your keyboard while you're hovering over your shader editor, it'll open up this little side menu. And you want to go to options, and we'll change this. It starts off as dithered. You can see that it has more of these little flakes that flicker and whatnot. We don't really want that. We just want to change it to blended so it'll look smoother. And that's all you need as far as transparency settings. As far as textures go, that is everything that we need for a base grass texture. And this will just fill out. If we plug all of this into our 2D instancing geometry node setup, and again, the tutorial for that is the same as my anime clouds tutorial, but this is what the base looks like. You'll notice we don't have the grass blades set up just yet, but the grass base, this is really just to make sure that things in the background will still look like it's got some vegetation, it's got some movement with the brush texture, and we'll be able to fill in everything else with the procedural grass blades as well as other clovers that are all derived from this base shader. Now, there's a whole other hour of this live stream that I couldn't cram into a shorter video, going over how you can make flowers and procedural grass blades, all so that you can put together a scene like this. So make sure to check out the live stream in the description if you want a more detailed look at that. And if you want to learn how to make Ghibli style water that's animated, you can click on this video right now.